chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you. From national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, good afternoon, Cayman Islands, and good morning to our global family. Welcome to another soul-stirring edition of Sabrina Speaks, Voices of the Islands, Conversations for the World, and the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. Yes, it is a pleasure to be back here with you. I'm your host, Sabrina, and today we will be talking about something that affects every single one of us after yesterday's most informative, educational episode of Sabrina Speaks, where we got to learn about this whole national task force that was launched on October 6th. But yes, something that affects every single one of us, and that's money. Some of you may say, what the heck are you talking about? It's hard to come by now with all of this thing about AI and digital currency. But not just in dollars in your wallet. We're talking about the value of gold in your drawer. Yeah, all of them that is in between the sofas, even down into little cup holders and all that sort of stuff. Gold in your drawers, the digital coin on your phones, and the global forces that shape what your paycheck can actually buy. Now, the world is shifting fast. AI is also changing how we work, and geopolitical tensions are shaking markets. And here in the Cayman Islands, we're feeling that as well. Now, as a small island development state, our economy relies heavily on financial services, tourism, land as well, and labor, also permits. And our CI dollar is pegged to the US dollar, which gives us stability, but also ties us to the decisions made far beyond our shores. So today's episode of Sabrina Speaks is about survival and strategy. It's about understanding what's really happening and what you can do to protect and grow your money. Now, whether you're holding on to jewelry, saving cash, or curious about crypto, this conversation may be for you. Because here's the truth. You don't need to be wealthy to be financially wise, you know. You just need to be informed. And that's exactly what my aim is beginning, or I want to do here this evening, but we're going to do it together. But you know what? Let's come back after this short message because the deadline has been extended. And we want to give them an opportunity to remind you of how it works. Okay, so stick with me. I'll be right back after this message.
Infrastructure is more than roads and buildings.
It's our lifeline, connecting East End to West Bay, Cayman to Little Cayman, and the Cayman Islands to the world.
It established the route to get our children to school, keep our hospitals powered, and support our businesses every day.
Through hard work, ingenuity, and perseverance, people make that happen.
From the early pioneers who paved the first paths and laid the first pipes.
To the innovators who modernize water, energy, telecoms, ports, and our airport.
They're the quiet hands that build resilience.
And the vision that keeps Cayman going strong.
Now it's our turn to recognize them. Know someone who built, maintained, or improved the Cayman Islands we love?
Nominate them today at gov.ky/YSCH. Click Nominate today.
That's right, and welcome back. The content we are about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for the general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional, legal, medical, or financial advice. So I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for your specific concerns. Sabrina Speaks disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. And it is a pleasure to be back here with you. And should you just be joining me, wherever you're tuning in from, welcome to Sabrina Speaks. Yes. And today, like I said at the beginning, we are diving into something that touches every single one of us, and that's MONEY. Yep, I can remember a song that just comes straight up the forefront of my mind when I say that. Has Rihanna label to it, but not just how we spend it, but how we protect it and grow it and understand it in a world that is shifting faster than ever. And you can see it, you can feel it, we've been hearing it, but I want to scratch the surface as we're building and getting ready even for our financial, for our budget. Yeah, we want to make sure that we are keeping informed, we understand the codes, we understand the acronyms, we understand the language as we modernize and we grow in this space together. But, I want to remind you that there is a tropical system in our area right now. It's tropical system. It's now Tropical Storm Michelle. Yesterday it was Invest 98. And now today we're finding out now that it's in between Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, and Jamaica. So it's going to be like, we're going to be talking about this from what they're saying for the next week, 8 days, 8 to 10 days. Can you imagine the amount of rain that's going to be in our area? But I want to encourage you to be prepared, listen to your local media stations and for all the latest updates, but we got to keep aware. Hurricane season does not end until the end of November. And we have been blessed thus far this year. And we don't want to send it anywhere. We were hoping that no one gets it, but hey, it is life. But the key is to be vigilant, always be prepared. And right now, what was a disturbance is now officially a tropical storm. So just be aware of all of that. Yeah, it's happening. It's real. It's real. I want to take this opportunity to remind you of what's happening thanks to the Lions Club of Tropical Gardens. They were out in West Bay today from 10 until about noon at their West Bay clinic. And on Friday, I want to see everybody sharing their pictures or telling me how their day was on the 24th. It's dress down day. Dress down, want everybody blinging out their pinks. Yeah, that's on Friday the 24th. To show your support. Remember, real men wear pink. Yeah, so it'll be interesting if you'd be bold enough to share it with me. Yeah. I just hope you are. And what's coming up for the older person's calendar? Today is the 21st. Here we go. I'm blind as a bat. Wisdom and Wellness at the Public Library in Cayman. That went down this morning. And tomorrow there's karaoke. Yeah, karaoke at the Lion Center here in Grand Cayman. And also tomorrow morning, we would have our seniors or older persons actually on Radio Cayman. It's radio information session for seniors. Yeah, that's on 89.9 FM tomorrow. And then tomorrow evening from 6:30 at the Lion Center, that's what's going to be going on. So you can't say we don't have a lot going on. OMG, it's a lot. And just like everybody else, happy birthday to Bianca. Yeah. She's my cousin. And for anybody who knows me for the past 4 years or got to know me in the past 4 years, you would have seen the handiwork of Bianca. Yes, she was one of my constituency office assistants, along with Miss Joyce Ann. But she was the magic behind all of the decorations and that sort of stuff for all of my Christmas events, the Easter stuff, all of the summer camps and all of that. That lady is the magic behind all the decorations. So just big up Bianca. May you have a wonderful birthday. Looking forward to seeing you a little later. Yep. So I hope so far that you've had a wonderful day. And thank you to everyone on the platform who extended birthday wishes to her as well. Yeah, that's how we do it here. And to everybody else who is celebrating birthdays today, this week, this month, kudos to you. Happy, happy birthday to you all from all of us here on Sabrina Speaks. Yeah. Lisa, good evening. How are you, my love? You're the first to comment. Connie Bonnie, good evening to you, my sweet Jisara. Hi, yeah, boy, they're rolling in. Even Barbara G. Hi, O'Neill. How are you? Trendsetter is in the house. Good evening to you, my sweet. And Damian Henry, always a pleasure to see you. Emma, good evening. It's good to see you. Hope all is going well as well. Thank you for the birthday wishes, Miss Marjorie. I'm quite sure Bianca will definitely feel the love. She's definitely felt it all day today. Oh my God, we have a family chat and there is just some pictures I would never be able to share with you all, but just put it like this. It's comical going back 6 years to see Bianca just evolve as she grow into a little feister there. So anyone knows us know that we stick together and you usually don't see one without the other, put it like that. But I'm just so happy that, Lord spared her to see another birthday and I wish her all the best. Yeah. But we got a lot to pack. I got places to go. I'm going to venture out. Yes, Shelma, I'm going to venture out tonight. Only Bianca can allow me to do that. So we got a lot to unpack and I'm quite sure I'm going to blow your socks off just a little bit with some of the history that I have here. And if I'm going too fast, please let me know because I want you to get as much, if not everything. The aim is for you to understand. Let me just move some stuff out of the background here. For you to understand exactly what I'm saying so that you follow along. Your comments are always welcome. And I really appreciate when I get your feedback. I'm being very honest with you. It makes me not feel like I'm alone here, which I know I'm not. And I'll get a picture of Chance. Chance has mastered climbing up the stairs. You would all know my dog, Chance. He has mastered climbing the stairs. So, yesterday he was on my foot and I was more like, I was nervous, hoping that he didn't pull out anything because he's so proud now that he's mastered climbing the stairs. I will share a picture of you with you all, let's say tomorrow, because we got a lot we want to pack in today. But yeah, so Chance is up and down. I got a security guard now all the time. He walks me to the office and back as well. So it'll be very interesting. We got an early caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind, my dear?
How art thou?
I'm fair to fine, but are you going to let me just set the stage and then I would love for you to join in on this one, you brute.
Well, actually, I called to get your cardiovascular exercise going early.
Oh, but you do that normally. All I can see is your number coming up. That is natural. I love you lots, though. What's up? Talk to me, my friend.
Clause 11 of the bill to amend the Immigration Act. Now,
I'm doing a show on that, but I'm going to do a show on that. Go ahead.
There is a concern that was expressed to me by someone about losing your, I don't know if it's your right to Caymanian or Caymanian status.
Same, one and same. Yeah, for the purpose of education, one and same.
No, okay, no, but what is that amendment saying?
I'm still dissecting everything, and because I am doing a show on it bit by bit, my aim today, which I'm sure you would love, is from coin to code.
Well, I believe that instead of doing an amendment bill the way that they have done for this, I think they should take the existing act and mark it up with red letters, the proposed changes, so that people
Caller,
can read.
I will be doing them side by side for my presentation.
The,
So there's
the,
a,
prob-
go
the
ahead.
problem with that is that it's really hard to
Mhm.
get everything in context doing it that way.
No, not if you know how to break it down in layman's terms. Because the feedback that I've gotten so far, long before this white paper has been in circulation, there's a reason I was going through certain sections. And
Okay,
that's,
so-
I didn't have an idea what was coming. It was a reason to prepare persons for exactly what transpired or what was released on Friday.
Okay, and so what you're saying is that the public would be able to understand it just fine.
They should, and let's see how rigorous or how informative their town hall meetings are going to be, because that is the duty of the operational arm.
Okay, what you're talking about is
The 28-day consultation period, which
Yes,
we're going to
but-
be doing it here. But I mean, from the government standpoint, to get your feedback, I don't think it's fair for anybody to just rely on podcasts like this to get their feedback. That's not fair to the people. I
And-
haven't
and I-
seen their rollout plan for how they're going to do it yet. I'm not
and
aware.
I don't, and not only that, but I think that relying on what is said in a town hall meeting
Mhm.
can be interpreted as a person's opinion.
There's an official way of doing it. And I will make sure that I'll have all of those details. I thought I passed something on some social media that there could have been a press briefing or whatever, but again, that's not what you're asking for. To be honest with you, caller, something as topical as this, something as emotive like this, the same energy that you used in a campaign should be used for something like this. And then you have your feelers out there. You have like a table where people will have the direct process. Or remember the boundaries, electoral boundaries commission that only one or two people showed up for? Something like that is what they should do for something like this. But who am I?
Well, I maintain the position that they should amend the existing act with red letters so
Uh-huh.
that it can be read in its context
Understood.
and properly understood, because
Like
there
an
are many
overlay.
different-
Like an
there are
overlay.
many different provisions that are being amended.
There's a
And
lot.
unless you can keep all of those amendments in your mind as you're reading a section,
Or
you're at a disadvantage.
correct. Or unless you're used to law and used to working in it, you're going to lose a lot of people. And there are minor tidy ups that may have been missed from previous amendments, a comma here, a dot there, an or a or. Those things are being captured here as well.
Yes.
It's
and-
also a
and
tidy up exercise.
my argument is that in order to get proper consent from the public, you have to properly inform the public. And I think that reading it in the way that it is in the form of the bill, most people will not be able to properly understand it. Therefore, I don't believe they can give their proper consent to it.
I really don't feel with the huge chunk that is in there that 28 days is sufficient.
It is not.
So it's that is, but again, I'm glad that you brought it up, despite you changing trajectory like this blooming Melissa. You brought it up, but hey, that's what this space is about, huh? But I don't really feel, based on how big the amendments are and how emotive it is, 28 days is insufficient.
I agree with that. But let's hope we can get the government to agree on properly informing the public.
Well, that's what these
Right.
spaces are for. Public consultation is what it is. And if you go on other platforms and you say the same thing, let's see what your PR plan, strategy is, how clear, how open, how transparent for public feedback is going to be. You don't feel, if you want to try to get this for the 5th of November sitting, we're not ready for it, we just need more time, then ask for it. This is where strength is in numbers. The silent majority can no longer remain silent, caller.
And that's right. And so I was just going to reply to you to say, yes, I plan on saying it in other places, but it can't just
Be
me
you,
saying it.
correct. And poor me, I'm trying my best here to educate everybody And you know what? I keep focus, but I'm doing everything I can to break it down. But like you rightfully say, it can't just be me. It can't be just you. It can't be just Lisa. It can't just be Siobhan. We need to get these feedbacks, even if you're privately doing it. That's why I'm going to make sure I reach out to the ministry to find out if persons want to email their concerns or what is the correct process.
We need a public
No,
discussion
I'm
on
saying in case some people want, they don't
Yeah.
necessarily need it. But I agree with you. We need more public discussion platforms to break it down in simplistic layman's terms. And I don't think the 28 days is going to be sufficient.
Here's my official request to you. Would you please reach out to the government, asking them if we could have more time to consider this and have them produce a consolidated draft so that we can read it in its context and have a proper understanding.
Okay, I would be more than happy to take on that challenge, sir.
All right, now I'm ready for your other topic.
You brute. You got call back or what? Because I haven't
depends.
I haven't even stirred yet. I haven't even set the stage yet.
Depending on what you're going to say.
Okay, well, call me
All right.
back then, huh?
All right, bye.
Take care. There you go. Leave it to Dana boy. Mind you, I will be doing it, but I heard Sandra said that she was also going to be breaking it down. So I wasn't sure if she had guests on her show in order to do it. But that's my bad. I didn't ask her if she was inviting guests or whether or not she was going to do it as a solo show. But I have all intentions. I am 3/4 of the way there with how my aim is to present it to you. It may have to be done over 2 shows in order to be able to answer your questions and hear your feedback on that as well, which could extend it. And a lot of you prefer scenarios or examples like, what are you referring to? I can see that happening, like what Denny was asking just now in regards to that 11 amendment for loss of the right to be Caymanian, which is one and same as Caymanian status. So yeah, I can see it possibly being done over 2 segments. But I would actually encourage persons, if you haven't gotten any sight of those amendments, the proposed amendments, that right now is in its 28-day consultation phase. And if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to pick it up and get to know it. I will do what I can on my space, but I really don't feel, and I'm someone who has worked with the law for over 20 odd years, that the 28 days for proper public discussion before it goes on the floor of Parliament to be debated by the political arm, I think the 28 days is too short. I think that's something that should be brought back to the floor of Parliament after public consultation. We're all heading into the holidays right now. People are going to go off on vacation. They're going down to the House. You're dealing with a national budget. Like, whose idea was this? I think that needs to be slowed down just a little bit. Invite industry stakeholders, which in this case with immigration reform is every single person. And from business, mom and pop stores, to grandparents, to retirees, persons, I just feel everyone needs to weigh in on this. And this 28 days is more than likely insufficient, given the nature that they're trying to do a budget, they're trying to present their budget, and something as topical as this, you're going to try to do it for the 5th of November? No can do. No. So I will officially take on that task and write the ministry on behalf of you guys here on the Sabrina Speaks platform to ask to see if it could be extended possibly for the first quarter of 2026. Let's see what feedback we get, right? Oh, Junie, thank you. Thank you. Happy birthday, she says to BB. May God bless you with many more to come. Enjoy your special day. Love you, girl. I can hear you say that right now. And Emma also is wishing happy birthday and many more as well. Bianca, Lisa, good evening. Hi, good to have you here with us. Rosie Rose, how are you, my sweet? It's good to have you here. Like I said, today's episode of Sabrina Speaks is titled From Cash to Code. Cayman's digital leap begins. Yeah. So we want to dive into this whole thing. And as you can see, based on yesterday's episode, we are talking about this digital task force that has been formed on October 6th. And, Cayman is actually right now preparing for the next phase of what's happening globally with AI, the platform, and just doing business. We've talked about the digital ID, the digital footprint, but the more I prepared for this segment is the more I found where we're already aligning, and it'll make sense as you follow along. Now, we are actually there. When you look at where we are with the Maya, the whole internet connectivity and making sure we have dedicated lines, because we depend largely on the financial industry for a lot of our revenue streams, right? So Cayman is indeed stepping into the tech-driven future. That's just the nature of the beast. When you look at where we get our income from, whether or not we want it in order for our own survival, to remain competitive, to be able to sustain ourselves and maintain what we have built here on the backs of our forefathers, getting ready and having the necessary infrastructure, policy, legislative framework in place. Yeah, we're stepping in there. And it starts with exactly why this whole task force was actually born, because it's smart. It starts with smart legislation. Now, from our very supermarkets to small shops, from policy to possibility, Cayman is entering a new era. We're seeing it, we're feeling it. I can almost say we're tasting it. Yeah. And it is digital. Yeah. When you now look, though, for the tone setting of today's episode, when you're looking at the global instability, when it comes to wars, when you're looking at elections, who is being elected, when you're looking at inflation, artificial intelligence and tech disrupting jobs in industries, people are actually somewhat concerned. You're looking then at digital currencies. And we've heard that term yesterday about tokenized assets that was so eloquently broken down. Again, it surfaced today. The Cayman Islands, our dollar, remember, is pegged to the US dollar. And you may say, well, what the heck does that mean? I've been hearing that. Yeah. What is pegged? That means that one Cayman dollar has always worth $1.20 US. When you say pegged, for the context of this conversation, that's a fixed exchange rate that has been in place, guess from when? A little older than me, over 51 years. From April 1st, and it wasn't Tom Fool's Day then, when this actually came to reality, of 1974. The Cayman Islands dollar was fixed on this exchange rate, has been in place ever since then. So like I said, in simple terms, understanding the terminology so that I don't lose anyone. And it's not that I'm saying we're dumb. It's because I don't want you to miss out on this. We're hearing the needs for inclusion. Some of us are feeling that we're being marginalized, that we're being stepped aside and all that sort of stuff. That is not the case here, okay? In simple terms, peg means locked in. Locked in. And so instead of the Cayman Islands dollar fluctuating like other currencies, our currency value stays tied to the US dollar at a steady rate. Now, this, in this case, keeps us stable and predictable for business and banks, and for also tourists who grace our shores, persons who want to engage in business here. But just for the sake of a little context, more context, the CI dollar, back in the day, we here in the Cayman Islands, remember we were ruled under Jamaica at one point in time. We used to use the Jamaican dollar until 1972. Again, I didn't know those timelines. Yeah, the Cayman Islands used the Jamaican dollar until 1972. I was born in 1974. And in 1972, the Cayman Islands introduced our own currency, the I grew up knowing as the KYD, the Cayman Islands dollar. And at that time, the government of the day, in 1974, the government decided then to peg it, the KYD dollar, to the US. And you may say, well, why? Why not commodities? Well, I'll tell you what. I'm hearing gold and commodities, and I'll break down all of that and stuff is the way to go now. But just before coming live, I realized that this is the lowest gold has been since 2013 or something like that. But I digress. Let's keep on track. So as I said, in 1974, the government of the day decided to peg our CI currency to support the growing financial sector at that time, and definitely the tourism industry. Is it now making sense? Now, there's a myth behind, if you don't have money, investing isn't for you. I could tell you that. We could demystify that today. Did you know that you can start with as little as $10? You can start investing with as low as $10. Investing is about not how much you start with, but actually consistency. And it has nothing to do with wealth. Now, I'm not here to be no strategist, no economist, no financial guru. It is for the context of this conversation that I had to give you that historical context, and so that you don't misunderstand some of the terms that you are going to be hearing much more as we transition into this digital age. And no one should be felt left behind. So then when you look at what's happening with money, you're hearing, oh, cash is going to go, it's going to disappear. Let me break that down in layman's terms for you. A lot of the times you're hearing geopolitics. You're hearing that more and more. And sometimes it's totally used out of context. And you will know whether or not somebody knows what they're talking about when they use it in the wrong context, right? But in layman's terms, what that means is that huge countries arguing or fighting, that actually affects oil prices, trade, and currencies. And then you'll hear about market fluctuations. When the US sneezes, I hear this as a kid, Cayman Islands catches a cold. It's no different because of our currency being pegged to the US. You're hearing about AI, artificial intelligence, and tech. Jobs themselves are changing. We heard it discussed here yesterday about looking at education reform and curriculums being adjusted so that we're not leaving the next generation behind because our country failed to change with times and embrace AI as something that is definitely coming. Like servers are possibly going to be the thing of the past. They're just call-in operators that AI is going to take care of that. Jobs are changing and some are actually disappearing and possibly will never return. But silver lining in everything, other jobs and industries are actually being created. You heard the term yesterday, tokenization, and I asked for it to really be broken down because the language is just not something we're used to unless you're in the industry. And let me repeat what was said yesterday. Tokenization is turning real things like property, be it a piece of land or developed real estate, mean something that's already built, or commodities such as gold, into digital pieces that you can buy or sell. So it's morphing into something that's digital. That's when you hear the term tokenization. That's what it means. And there are some myths and truths about exactly that. The myth is that artificial intelligence is only for tech people. Well, no, that's not true because it's already on your phone, your bank, even your job. You got Wi-Fi connectivity to connect your phone and all that sort of stuff. That's AI. Learning how it works, then in this case, is for everyone. And that is why I felt it was important for me to break it down as we navigate this space. So when you think about it then, that I've probably woken you up, and I know some of your minds may be going, I'm seeing some of your comments. What's happening then in the US then? Because we saw where the other day it was some instability and where there fell in rankings and all that sort of stuff. And oh my gosh, the Cayman Islands dollar is pegged to the US dollar. Well, right now, based on the latest findings that I found, the US economy is showing mixed signals. And even though the growth was strong in mid-year, like June and July, their GDP was up by 3.8%. What is the acronym? I'm not going to leave you out. GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. And what is that then, Sabrina? It is the total value of everything that a country in itself produces and earns in a year. That's how you get to know what that is. Think of it, let's use this as an example. Think of it like a country's financial report card, and it shows exactly how much money is made from like goods, and goods meaning cars, food, and clothes. And then services, like how much money is being made from services like banking, tourism, and healthcare. And we all know what's happening over there right now with the shutdown going into 3 weeks, right? Woohoo. And then you look at investments and government spending. So another example is like, let's say Cayman makes $1 billion from tourism, 500 million from banking industry, 300 million, let's say, from construction based on all the plans and building permits and all that sort of stuff, and 200 million, just for the sake of this exercise, from government services, right? Then with the 1 billion from tourism, 500 million from banking, 300 million from construction, 200 million from government services, Cayman's GDP then would equate to 2 billion for that year. Okay, so you follow me so far? Well, as of the first quarter, what ours is, because I gave you an example of the US, based on what I found, for the first quarter of 2025, our Cayman Islands economy grew by 2.9%, according to those preliminary estimates. So break it down for me, Sabrina. What does that all mean? It means that Cayman made more money overall compared to the same time in 2024 and compared to the same time last year. And that growth, based on these findings, came from hotels and restaurants, which was a little bit more than 4.5%. It came from, of course, electricity and water, which was equates to like 4.6%. Health and social services of 4.7%. Finance and insurance, 2.9%. And retail and construction, even though I didn't get the exact percentage for the time of this, that showed gains in comparison to 24. So you may say, well, what the heck does this matter? What it actually means is that this growth shows that Cayman's economy is still moving in a positive direction. Even while globally, the economy faces uncertainty because the very nature of our dollar being pegged to the US currency. Locally, we're doing pretty well based on our figures. It's also a very strong indication of the Cayman Islands' resilience, especially when it comes to tourism, even though we know those people are hurting, services, and infrastructure. But despite all of that, and I see the comments, I'm going to come to you guys, public confidence is still low when it comes to the United States and even here, because a lot of what is being said for the context of this conversation is that a lot of Americans feel that things are getting worse. When you compare that to what's here, and you hear the numbers that are thrown out, which we will dissect them when they go back to the House of Parliament on the 5th of November, we'll really be able to have some real numbers to see exactly what numbers we are putting forward and whether or not that's taking us in the right direction. Now, as I said, looking for the US context and the uncertainty, their government shutdown for going 3 weeks now is rising debt and political uncertainty. And based on what the experts say, the future looks uncertain and is a little shaky. This is not politics. This is just facts, okay? And when people are uncertain, they try to look for other means to diversify in order to not go down with a sinking ship. So you may say, you've been comparing us to the US, but what does that mean for Cayman? I said it. Since our currency, the Cayman Islands dollar, is pegged to the US, we're also tied to their ups and downs. Which means, pegged, our dollar is locked in to the US dollar at a fixed rate. So if the US dollar weakens or faces trouble, it can affect our economy too, even if we're doing fine locally. So should we be worried? Not panicked, but we should be aware. And like I said, our people in the financial industry, our bankers, I'm quite sure they're having the conversations. But if these topics like this don't come up, you would never know, which is why context in history matters. Because just earlier today, someone I was speaking to thought that the CI dollar was pegged to the pound. And I was able to clarify that. So in this case, it's not to sound the whistle or to say, oh my God, run for the hills. I just want you all to be aware that if the US struggles, it could impact tourism, it could impact trade, and it could impact investments right here in the Cayman Islands, even if locally we're doing great. We already know our financial services rely heavily on the US stability. And we can see what's happening. They cannot even agree on their budget. 3 weeks. We see inflation, we see interest rates, and global trust in the US dollar all matters to us. So one will say then, because people are thinking we're locked to the pound, are we locked to commodities? Hold up. It's not about ditching where we're pegged overnight because it's not working out for whatever reason, or someone is playing a bully. But it may be smart to explore exactly where we're headed with this topic today. It may be smart to explore digital currencies and other stable assets like gold or tokenized Cayman assets. See the term come up again? We may also think of, again, in other options, diversifying our economy. So we're not too dependent on one country. And the biggest takeaway is educate our people so that hourly workers, retirees, youth, and all understand exactly what's happening and people do not feel marginalized. Because right now, some people are saying, oh my God, I hear what she's saying, but I'm struggling to keep food on my table. I'm struggling to know where the next dime is going to come after the extension with CUC expires and I still don't have what I owe them. This isn't about fear. This is about being ready, informing, and educating. And Cayman has always been smart. We have always been stable. But the best takeaway, we've always been forward thinking. Even when it doesn't make sense to the everyday Joe at the beginning, it's conversations like this and realities to know forward thinking is that's a part of our genetic code. Whether or not we suck as leaders with educating and informing, with our PR, with our education, I think we could do a much better job. And that's why I love spaces like this. That is why I love to engage with people like Danny, who gives me high blood pressure every now and again because he refused to go through first grade, second grade, third grade. Sometimes he's all doing sixth form and we're just a grade 4. Yeah, that's when you're hungry. That's when you've been watching what's happening. It's like nobody is listening, like no one is understanding. I know exactly where he is, you know. I know exactly how he feels. So you heard me talking even about commodities. And if I'm going too fast, let me know. I'm hoping I'm breaking it down so you're getting it. When you hear the terminology commodity, what is commodity? For the sake of this space, commodities is gold, silver, oil, diesel, all of that sort of stuff, and even coffee. That's considered a commodity. And then you're going to hear precious metals. You're hearing more about that. That again brings up your gold, your silver, and even your platinum. Where is Sabrina going with this, you may ask? They hold value when money loses value. They do. So if you really got old jewelry in your drawer, that's your entry into commodities. So you may say, well, oh gosh, I know exactly where your headspace is. You know, some of your headspace is going in. You just see that big old bullion, or you see these huge gold coins. If you got old jewelry in your drawer, that's your entry into commodities. You can sell it, you can trade it, or you can melt it down and invest in bullion. We got pawn shops right here, or gold buyers in Cayman. And they're also, from my research, they are online platforms that buy gold and silver, local coin shops as well, or bullion dealers as well. But let me just dispel again some myths for the purpose of keeping the conversation going. Some of you think that gold is outdated. That's a myth, because the truth is, gold is timeless. It's a hedge against inflation and currency risk. That's the truth. It's not outdated. So the myth is, for those of you who have missed it, that gold is outdated. No, it isn't. The truth is gold is timeless, and it's a hedge against inflation and currency risk. So when you look at the latest data comparing commodities, and even when you're looking into different stocks and stuff, for those of you who are doing that online stuff, as October of 2025, we're trying to understand exactly where we're going. And when you look then at commodities versus stocks, when you look at the gold, as I broke it down, gold, silver are rising. We're seeing it. Even though it fluctuates at time, people are buying them. And that is their way of safeguarding themselves against inflation and global uncertainties, as we spoke about political instabilities. We see where oil prices right now are actually down. Because right now what we're seeing, there's more supply than demand, because we're looking at alternative fossil fuels. And some countries are indeed cutting back on usage because they're finding alternate ways of sustainable materials. And when you even look, I heard and I saw an article the other day where you're going to probably pay more for coffee. There's commodities in food as well, like wheat and coffee. Yeah. They're mixed. Some prices are up due to weather and others are stable. But there are many things that affects the values of certain things that we actually take for granted. But when it's in this context of where we're going into the digital age, it all makes sense. So in simple terms, when we talk about precious metals like gold and silver are doing well because people trust them when things honestly are just feeling unstable. And if oil is struggling because of the world isn't using much of it at this time, then tech stocks we're seeing is booming. Companies like Apple, you see what's going on with Amazon, and we're seeing more and more talks about artificial intelligence, AI, and automation are driving growth. we're seeing where big companies are bouncing back, especially like we're seeing in China and the US, when it comes to trade deals and lower interest rates and all that sort of stuff. It's just trying to feel out the market. So it's like it's flip-flopping. But I don't want you to get lost in the context because I know it's a lot to digest. But some sectors, like energy and retail, are lagging behind. That speaks a lot about what's happening on the ground. Yeah. So if you're invested in some of the tech companies, and kudos to you if you're doing, you probably made money in the past couple of days. But not all stocks are winning. Some are recovering, and that's where I'm not a gambler. Whether I'll come out on the back end of all of this, I probably will. But many would say, you need money in order to be in that game. We get to spell that as well. You heard what I said just now, right? If you got a drawer with some earrings or a ring that it's just not worn or you're missing a stone or two, you've already in the game. Yeah. Damien Charles, good evening, my dear. How are you? CARICOM's lack of investment in gold and oil stems from several factors, including a focus on diversifying their economies through services like tourism, a limited ability for smaller economies. Let me catch up. For smaller economies to invest in large-scale projects and difficulty in adding local value to resource extraction. Instead of direct investment, member nations focus on attracting foreign direct investment, the acronym is FDI, for resource extraction, which is like your oils and stuff that we're seeing what's happening in Venezuela right now, while developing sectors like services and tourism. Profound. You're quite right. Yes. Thea, this is the mark of the beast. It's just called digital ID. There you go. This is why we got to hear all sides. Good evening, Miss Dorothy. It's so good to have you here with us. Hey, Gina, how are you? Good evening to you as well. Peace and love. AI companies are booming. Yes, they are. You're seeing them every day. Oh my goodness. Damiel Charles, a barrel of oil was at US $60 and down from US 100, but gas prices in Cayman still not reflect that change. We did get some feedback. I heard how that is, and I won't go into it because I don't want to misquote why that is actually the case. And the reason why I'm not going to do it is because it came in a conversation in a presentation that I was at CUC when Mr. Hugh was explaining exactly how they purchase their oil in bulk and why we seem to be lagging when the prices go down. But maybe that can be broken down in a simplistic form. Maybe one day in this platform, I will see if they can actually break it down or if somebody knows about it and they want to come here to explain it. But there is a reason why. And it made sense, me not being an expert in there, what he explained to us in that presentation, why it is not shown on the, when you go to the pumps. Marjorie, hey, Milano, how are you? Thank you for your support. Yeah, Sia, cash is just paper, but it's still physical something trade with goods. It's still a physical something traded with gold. How can I buy gold with digital money? And there's a power outage. Okay, I understand what you're coming. Oh, that is granular, but I'm quite sure there's a very profound or sound reason to say that that may be isolated only in your area. What if it's a global shutdown? Yes, these risks are real. We're not saying not anything is bulletproof, but I totally agree with you. And this is why we're educating you bit by bit in this space with what we can share with you based on as this continues to unfold. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Good evening, Sabrina.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
I just wanted to call in and say to anybody who's listening, to build off of your point about commodities, right? Especially the younger people who are leaving high school and who are going into the working world. invest your money, any money of yours that you put into things like land, property, your own education, stocks, bonds. The market goes up and the market goes down, but in the long run, you don't lose with those things, right? You know where you lose with those things? Hair and nails, keeping up with the Joneses, buying the newest cars. So to make it, for people who may not fully understand the
lingo.
value,
Yeah.
but the value in commodities is it's anything that can be bought or sold. There will always be demand for land. There will always be demand for gold. There will always be demand for skills. That's why education is also a commodity. But there's not going to be any demand for your nails or your braids or the latest iPhone that you buy that they're already working on the one that's going to be released in 4 or 5 years from now.
Exactly.
So I say all that to say to my people, especially to the younger
generation
audience who are listening, you are trading your time and your energy for money, and as Sabrina rightly said, the cash loses value. Take the cash and put it in things that will retain its value or can grow in value in the long term. Your education, property,
commodities.
Want to park its gold, commodities.
Yeah.
Those are things that will gain value over time. Anyway, just wanted to throw that in.
Thank you so much.
care.
Thank you.
Amen.
Definitely. I won't be surprised if he calls back as I get deeper into this, but thank you for reinforcing that, because I think for far too long, for the lack of knowledge, our people will perish. And I was so happy to, what people don't understand is when I actually prepare for these segments and I make it relevant to what's happening in the now, I'm also educating myself, but it just doesn't stop with just delivering it here. It goes into the next chapter of reality. And being able to regurgitate this, being able to reiterate this in layman's terms for the masses to understand is a step in the right direction, but it also proves that I've gotten an understanding that I can actually break down the language so that everyone, without making anyone feeling dumb, because in this space, no one is dumb. There's not a wrong question. There's not a stupid question. There's not you can have a thought-provoking comment or you can have something that challenge, but the mere fact is that I'm sharing information, and I'm quite sure a lot of you go back to check if what I'm saying is true, and kudos to you. Thank God I've been getting great feedback, excellent feedback for the record, because not one of you have actually said, Sabrina, you're talking hogwash. Not one of you have come back and said, Sabrina, how you delivered that, it's you're actually preparing us to think how you want to think. No. This space is neutral. My opinion doesn't matter. My job is to elevate talk. My job is to educate you for food for thought. So when the opportunity comes and presents itself, you will be educated and informed to know how you can ask the right questions of the right people at the right time. So I want to thank that caller for actually endorsing exactly this is a call to any young person who may have their priorities totally straight. A young Caymanian, a new family growing up, that they're all into the hype and not into the realities of what's coming. And when you look then at the breaking down of stability, what you may want to consider, as he alluded to with those examples, what is stable, and there is some protection if you want for your investments. Like he said, consider gold or silver. And what is taking for the long haul, long-term growth, then you look at tech stocks. Tech stocks, you could consider. I'm not saying that's where you got to go. Consider. You may also want to look at some passive income. And in that case, then look at even dividend stocks that pay back dividends, right? And then you may want to, if you want inflation hedge, then that's where you look then at your commodities, as he rightly stated. And there are also myth busting information in regards to this as well, People are thinking that stocks are always better than commodities. Well, the truth is, stocks can grow faster, but commodities protect you when the markets crash. Mhm. The myth is stocks are always better than commodities, but the truth is stocks grow faster, but commodities protect you when the markets crash. And there's another myth as well that commodities are only for the rich investors, because now we're speaking that language. Can you imagine how some of these people eyes are going to open up when they're seeing common day-to-day persons having these conversations and now can engage, let's say at a watering hole at a party now, and you're not talking about who came up in the nice Ferrari or who's wearing the Rolex or who's going here or who got drunk at the last event, but you're actually talking about the preparation in the upcoming budget, and you're talking about diversification, and you're talking about commodities, and you're talking about this is what you're going to do and all that. They're going to look at you like, what the heck is happening? And this is why each one teach one. So if you're thinking that the myth is commodities are only for the rich investors, the truth is you can start with a silver coin, or you can even sell old jewelry, and it's more accessible than you think. Now, what you do with it for the long haul is where discipline comes in. And you may need some guidance to help you navigate this new way, okay? Now, we talked about diversification, and that means not putting, I've always heard my grandmother say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Many moons ago, when I was a little girl, we heard that one particular bank here went down and a lot of Caymanians lost a lot of money. Yeah. In that case, they did not diversify. They put all of their eggs at that time, or a great percentage of their eggs, in that one basket. So what do you mean by diversification in the grander scheme of terms for explanation purposes? When we say we're going to diversify, it means we're spreading our money across different types of assets. And why, you may ask? I'm okay here. I've been dealing with these for 20 odd years and da-da-da-da-da. Asset isn't only a financial institution. That's the different types of things that we alluded to earlier on. But why, you may ask? Because if one crashes, the others might hold steady. And then you may say, well, what do you mean when you talk about types of assets? And why? Again, you have to look at cash. That's a type of asset. You look at gold and silver. You look at property. You look at stocks. You look also at digital currency. And when you talk about cash, that CI or US dollar, and the risk level here would be considered low. And it's your entry point then to get you on the path is savings account. Well, Sabrina, Dana giving you no returns. Yeah, we know. We're talking about an entry point because we're all about diversifying. Then you're going to go look into your drawer and all those pieces of gold and silver that you may have. Jewelry, coins, bullion, the risk level of those is medium. You can sell it or you can buy it locally. And then you're going to look then at another type of asset as property. And what is property for the context of this space? Land, home, be it commercial properties or whatever, a duplex, a fixer-upper. And the risk level of that is medium to high, because the entry point, you can get income, that sort of stuff, continuous source of revenue from rent or co-investment. And then you look at stocks as well. And that is shares in a company. And of course, the risk level there is going to be high, because then your entry point would more than likely be an online broker. And if that's not a space that you're comfortable in, I suggest you get serious advice. And another type of asset is digital currency, which is what is the headliner today. And that is like, Bitcoin and Ethereum and stable coins. Now, those risk levels are high. And those are controlled by a crypto app. But was she just talking about, let me just take this call. Good evening, caller. Welcome back to Sabrina Speaks, and what's on your mind this time?
You use the word digital currency.
I know. Oh.
But
Yes. Hold on.
the problem with crypto is that it's not classified in Cayman legislation as currency.
I'm glad you went there.
It's an asset.
Uh-huh.
Now, so what is your understanding of of how the government looks at Bitcoin and other such instruments in the Cayman Islands?
Well,
What's your
right now, it's actually regulated by SEMA. And I did look at it because I didn't even realize, and it's a vehicle right now. It isn't what we're looking at that now. It doesn't just move money around. It runs programs and like contracts. So it's not what people may be thinking. You understand that? But it is regulated. It's tokenized assets then.
Well, this thing about tokenized assets. One thing that Cayman needs to be extremely careful about, this concept of tokenizing things. You have to make sure that if you were to buy something that has been tokenized, you need to be absolutely clear whether you own the underlying asset or just the token.
But that's where the regulatory body comes in, because they have to make sure that they comply with AML.
That's where we as citizens need to make sure about what is being done. Because that's our responsibility. The idea that we
your due diligence then,
let the government handle it for us. That is the recipe for disaster. Because in many instances, MPs are representatives of sectors of our economy that doesn't have our interests at heart. So I know that they're supposed to be there to represent the people.
But what if they don't understand? What if they don't understand? Because you're hearing Bitcoin, the term Bitcoin, and like how you would have Ethereum regulated, that is regulated here, and I found that out. But it isn't what people probably thinking.
No, but
it's really a platform, as you rightfully said.
No. 1 second. There is a sharp distinction between what is referred to as coins and Bitcoin. Bitcoin is in a category all by itself. Then the reason for that is that there is no entity that controls Bitcoin in the way that you have a board of directors controlling a company. And that is the case with Ethereum. That's essentially just an electronic version of the fiat system that we use that is called cash, right? And as a result of that, it's subject to manipulation.
But there are guidelines. There's a piece of legislation, the Virtual Assets Service Providers Act of 2020.
But that's not going to help you when it comes to decisions that are made by the board about the issuance of the of the amount of Ethereum. So one of the things, like, let's say you own a company and you're selling stock in that company and people are buying it like crazy. The board can decide whether they're going to issue more stock. Right? So in other words, they're diluting the existing share because the value of the company is based on the earnings. But what I'm saying is that in Ethereum, you can essentially do the same thing. If lots of people are buying Ethereum, the board can say, well, let's issue more. But the problem with issuing more is that it means what you have in your pocket or wallet in this case
The virtual,
is
yeah.
it is being affected by the issuance of new instances of Ethereum. In Bitcoin,
Mm-hmm.
there is a fixed issuance of 21 million.
Mm-hmm.
And each coin is divisible by 100 million. So you're not going to have that type of manipulation in Bitcoin that you can have in the other coins.
But do you think that
So
that is the whole focus then of the blueprint, as alluded to by our guest yesterday, for these task force? Again, because we're building a house, we're seeing where this piece of legislation already exists and it is regulated. This VASP Act, that's a Virtual Asset Service Providers Act. And what that piece of legislation do, caller, is that it makes services like crypto business who are registered here a license, and that they must follow the rules and prevent scams and money laundering here in our jurisdiction. And they also have a duty to protect your data and privacy. So it's not like we don't have a piece of legislation and these watchdogs for what they're doing. As the Honorable Premier alluded to yesterday, we got to start somewhere of making sure, based on the recommendations and the public feedback, that we have legislation that even bolsters exactly what you're crying for. Who's going to own it? Who's going to save me from the dark web? How is it going to protect me in accordance to the Constitution? You see what I'm saying? On a bigger national scale.
Well, I'm not crying for the government to come running and protect me. I don't share that mentality at all.
Okay, but for
what
those,
I'm saying, I'm not responsible for other people. I'm just telling you that in many instances, the government is the problem when it comes to a lot of things. In fact, in regards to inflation, government is the cause of inflation. Let's look at the U.S. as an example. I think when George Bush Jr. was president, I think the debt was somewhere around 5 trillion or something like that. And now we're up to 37 trillion in debt. And what that really means is that the U.S. is borrowing beyond its, and is constantly borrowing to fund its activities. And but that what that means is that essentially you have, the way that would work is a politician would get up and say, oh, I think we need to spend a couple $1 billion on XYZ. And once they make the decision legislatively that that's what's going to happen, the Treasury will say to the Fed, look, we need you to sell some bonds. And selling a bond means that you're borrowing money. And buying a bond means you're lending money. And so what you have to appreciate is that they go that route in most instances because they do not want to go into Congress with a bill that says we're raising taxes. And you see, borrowing money is a roundabout way of raising taxes. Because what you have to repay is not just the value that you need, that you would be spending on whatever XYZ project is, but the interest on the amount that you spend to do XYZ projects. So what you're in fact doing is sinking the country deeper in debt. So government is the source of inflation. And this is, we have our own version of that here locally. So in the problem that we have is slightly different from the US. And in the US, they're the primary, they create the inflation that affect us. You were talking about
we're pegged
and
instability,
we catch a
cold,
right? So we import the inflation they create. And then our local politicians add the local element of inflation to that based upon our local performance of how we run the country.
Which is what I said about the GDP, and we did the comparison to the US, and I also gave an example, which is interesting that we're having this conversation now, because on the 5th of November, they're going down to do the budget. And some of the question was, we're going to ask for a borrowing of 300 million, if I'm correct, or 300 billion. No, whatever the borrowing is, 300 million more in borrowing or debt. That was heavily debated on before the House adjourned until they go back on the 5th of November. So that's going to be interesting how you said that. And I'm hoping now that it actually brings some bells into people's heads and put it into perspective as to why the cost of living here could be increased because of exactly what you're saying.
The cost of living here
Inflation
is impacted by whatever we import.
Yeah.
Because whenever we import
We're
goods
bringing it
and
in.
services, we're importing that inflation that's caused somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our own duty or tax system on top of that.
Correct.
So we put our local layer on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but what Minister Anglin said just, I don't know, yesterday, the day before, whenever it was,
Friday,
7.9% debt service, 7 point something percent debt service ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if the amount that they're borrowing of 300 million, I don't know that it is, but let's just say it's inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be our debt service ratio. That would be pretty good, because the debt service ratio in the United Kingdom is atrocious. We shouldn't be taking advice from them about anything, right? If we can manage to stay below that 10% ceiling that we have on the debt service ratio,
right,
we're in a good financial position. That doesn't mean we can't make mistakes. That doesn't mean things can't happen in the world that cause us to trip and fall.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can guarantee that those things won't happen. Okay, but if what he's saying is that 300 million that they wish to borrow would still have them at the 7 point,
and not fall afoul of the FFR. Yeah, there was Mm-hmm.
Then that would be awesome, right? The challenge would be, how do we continue to keep it that way? Because that requires discipline.
Yeah.
But the challenges of inflation is going to the pressures of inflation is what's causing the uncertainty in America, and it primarily has to do with the labor force. The recent labor numbers were not that great.
No.
Now, that's going to have an impact on us, right? Because that's going to cause investors to make decisions. Who knows? It might benefit us, because when they move their money around, who knows what they're going to do with it, right? So that's I think that the idea of being afraid of the market risk in that way, that's not a healthy position to take. You need to be aware of it. You need to take it seriously,
but not scared, not petrified, like, oh my God. Yeah.
That you can't, that you're paralyzed, right? Because there is no possible way of doing away with risk. In fact, with risk comes higher reward. So you can't separate that relationship. The reason why when you put your money in a savings account that they pay you nothing is because there's no risk. Right? That's now what people need to understand. And I remember, and it's been a while, I had a conversation with someone about inflation, and the numbers that they tell you that is inflation, that's not the true measure of inflation. That is what that doesn't take into account is the debasement of currency in the US that's impacted for us. If you were to take that currency debasement into consideration, you're probably looking at an inflation rate more along the lines of about 11% for last year. Now, what you have to appreciate is if you were to take your money and you put it in a bank account that's paying you 1% or 2%, and you have an effective real inflation of 11%, you're minus 9%. So in other words, you're paying the bank 9% to keep your money at the bank effectively. This is a really, really bad idea. Now, I'm going to tell you an extremely sad story. It's something I learned the hard way. But the reason why I learned it is because I trusted certain people in the traditional finance system. In 2010, I think it was, a friend of mine said to me, "You need to buy Bitcoin." And I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know as much about technology as I do today. So I was lost. So I went to a friend of mine in the traditional banking system and I said, "What do you think?" He said, "That's a scam. Stay away from it."
Mm-hmm.
And so I did. But what I didn't know until recently, when I started to research it more thoroughly, was that Bitcoin is a competitor of banks.
So anyone in the banking
So
industry would
so
paint a
he
different
had a
picture, yeah,
conflict
of
interest.
interest.
Now, let me tell you what's the sad part about the story. I had contemplating buying 1,000 Bitcoin when it was around $5 a coin at the time. I didn't do it, but that was what I was contemplating doing before the person in the banking industry scared me away from it. Do you know what 1,000 Bitcoin is worth today? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't. Honestly, no, I don't.
All right. It would be worth 109 million.
Oh, wow. Are you kicking
So
yourself? Is that why you come on here for USA?
no. It's because I realized
Yeah.
that there is no one on a white stallion that's going to ride
Save you.
in
You
and
have to
save
do
me.
your own research for
I
yourself.
have
Yep.
to do my own
Yep.
because the conflicts of interest in our society
Will
is
skew you.
absolutely shocking.
Mm-hmm. So what would
And
you
there
say
are
to somebody now, though, that may actually be interested in Bitcoin? And I'm going to ask you to wrap
Well,
up as quick, please.
what I would say is that the government is sitting down and allowing the banking industry to prevent people here from buying Bitcoin with their debit card, their credit card, because the bank has a conflict. Now, the way the bank is looking at it is that Bitcoin is its competitor. They don't want to help their competitor.
But it's your money.
But this is where now you're starting to get into digital ID because it's actually not your money.
No, what I'm saying is for the transaction, it's your, yeah, I know we don't own the money, but what I'm saying, you're trying to do a transaction, and because it is a direct competitor of where you housed your
That
money.
should not be allowed.
Exactly. But I saw where a commenter said that CNB doesn't allow you. So yeah, somebody else
None of
commented it. Mhm.
Yeah. And what is actually happening is that the banks are holding Caymanians back from opportunities they would otherwise be able to benefit from.
But who would have known this if we didn't bring up this conversation today? I mean, the
Well,
mere fact.
it is known. It is known what a terrible condition we have in this country is that we know things and we just sit there.
Keep
and
it to
we don't-
ourselves. As
Yeah.
long as it's not on my doorstep, then so
That's
what?
right.
They'll
And
figure it out.
Nobody wants to step up and be heard on things because nobody wants to stick their neck out and have it chopped off, right?
Well, then this may be my last episode.
Well, no. They actually can't really do you anything except deny you, because it's not that it's illegal, you know. It's
It's
just that they don't want you to
it's
do it.
regulated. I said it here. It's
Yeah,
regulated here.
yeah.
So
So it is just purely a decision of the bank that they don't want you to do it. And you have to consider this. In the US, they're actively right now changing the laws to do away with that mindset. And we're sitting here and our people are not able to take advantage of the opportunities in a convenient way. And our government isn't taking on the banks and saying, don't you think that it's a bit ridiculous that because,
maybe they don't understand.
well,
We're
maybe,
doing layman's terms here. As boring as some people may find this right now, it's going to make sense. I keep telling people that these subjects, these topics will come around full circle eventually. And what you're saying is profound because people
well,
are commenting that it's facts. What you're saying with some of the
I
financial
am
institutions.
absolutely certain about what I'm talking about.
No, we're not doubting you. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have persons that are agreeing with you.
I got that. I'm just reiterating to say that I am certain. And what needs to be done is that the government needs to have a talk with the banks and say, look, you shouldn't be controlling how people spend their money in that way. That's ridiculous because really and truly, that is anti-competitive practices.
But isn't this what you're saying about if we go to the digital ID and the digital footprint that they're going to control us? Well, what you're describing right now, there is some mechanism of control and blocking right now.
But it's going to be worse with the digital ID. And trust me, it will be worse. It's not that we don't have identity, you know, we do. What they're seeking is a single identity.
Correct.
Because that makes it easier to cut you off completely. Now, I don't want to go down that road. I want to stick on this particular subject. Right. The reason for that, this is that it's anti-competitive for a bank to say, well, I don't want you to spend your money on Bitcoin. The same problem you have in the US where the Democrats was arguing that, and there was a, I don't remember her name, in New York City. She was bullying businesses to not allow gun sales to take place with, otherwise they wouldn't be looked upon favorably by whatever the office she was in. That went through the courts. And it was ruled that that was unconstitutional.
Yes, I saw the headlines.
And the point that I'm making is that there will be people
who
for
will
their own selfish financial reasons would disallow you from making decisions that you want to make. The way I see it is if you want to buy a Boston whaler boat versus some other type of boat, you should be free to spend your money on a Boston whaler if you want. To have the banking industry have the audacity to make the decision that they know better than you about where you want to put your money, that's very offensive to me. So if the government wants to do something useful, sit down and have a conversation with them about those anti-competitive practices. They need to stop. There's more that I could say, but I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you so much. I think that has been so sobering. Thank you. Thank you so much for your contribution. And I'm quite sure it has woken up a lot of you with what was said there, because now it's coming around full circle. And Sia and Geotech, I know you're following along. I can see you, and I'm trying to put it up so people can actually follow along, because you're agreeing with what the caller was saying and what we were exchanging. And yeah, this is quite interesting where we're headed. And like I said, this space is for information purposes. to see both sides. I see somebody was talking about the market of beast and we need to know what that is. Maybe I can have somebody come on from a neutral standpoint and then maybe somebody from the church to explain what that is and how it ties in for balance and for neutrality. These are all the things, but while we're talking about all of that, reality is it's coming. Reality is certain restrictions as described here and as our caller alluded to is real. If you are actually told you can't do this, you can't buy that cryptocurrency because then my friends, you're already being controlled. But some of the questions is, and what do we do next? Now that's another episode. How do we band together? How do we continue to educate in this space for a point of educational purposes so that it's the rose tinted glasses are removed and that we can educate the masses? Because at the end of the day, if we've been disenfranchised by saying something is not what it should be for whatever reason, then it's time that everyone tunes in, perk up their ears, because yeah, we could be missing out on a lot of opportunities. Amanda, the banks are making business of people's money. We have to pay for every transaction. Yeah, and I'm seeing some of the transaction fees as well. Remember when you were encouraged to do everything online and there would be no fees, but yet now monthly there is a service fee, and sometimes it's hard to break down where those service fees are derived. When you actually go to open an account now, they ask, how are you going to be seeding the account? How much transactions you are pretty much expected to run through that account. They're asking, what's your source of income? I can understand that. Know your customer. I alluded to that earlier on. And how much withdrawals are you going to be making? Are you going to be doing it over the counter? Are you going to be doing it via your ATM? Are you going to be doing online transactions? And these are, when you look at it from the bigger picture, it's aligning to some of the concerns that the likes of Siobhan are talking about, the likes of Danny is talking about, and Lisa has been talking about as well. Now, to say some of you were not at all got the foundation of where this is actually derived, I'm hoping that today may have scratched the surface with that, even if you're getting some of it a little bit twisted or muddled, but at least some of the terms, and you can always play back this episode and take it in at your own time, because it does have more questions than answer. It's a lot more queries, I'm quite sure, after today's episode. And because we're all getting educated slowly but surely, it now makes you more confident when you go in to speak to your bankers, looks differently. And I'm hoping that it'll encourage you as well to go and research stuff more for yourself as well, and not just take what any one person says, like what happened to the caller and his wanting to invest in Bitcoin at that time. Ms. Rose, the Bible speaks about the mark of the beast. We'll put that into perspective out of respect for everyone in the space eventually, once I can get the guests on, because that's not a solo topic for me. Definitely, it's not. Damien, we are also not allowed to have PayPal, Stripe directly from Cayman. Stripe are shipped or used, transact directly from Cayman. Sia, how many businesses in Cayman use crypto for exchange? I'm not aware of any, but the regulations are there that persons, it's regulated in a point where SEMA has identified it, to be honest, and there is legislation around it. So at the end of the day, because I'm not in this space, I wouldn't be able, Sia, to really say, but I'm quite sure they are doing it, because the mere fact that there's a legislative framework around it that regulates it, and it's past SEMA's checks and balances, as long as they fall within the parameters of what the law says for right now, they're free to do it, whether it's into our day-to-day mom and pop stores, like you wouldn't go to Foster's. No. It hasn't trickled down yet, but maybe it's on the horizon. Yeah, maybe it's on the horizon. Yeah. Damien, it should be a labor law that anyone employed here must have a bank account and pay must be done electricity. It should be a labor law that everyone employed here must have a bank account and pay must be done electronically. Oh, done electronically. Well, yeah, I think that's pretty much where they're headed right now. But some people prefers their cash because then they go to another exchange and they send their money home for whatever reason because they have families to support. But it is the preferred way to do it so that it's safer, less chances of being robbed. Those are some of the reasons that are used contrary to what other people may think. And yeah, but when you look at even establishing the accounts, there's a reason for all of that data collection. Your source of income, if let's say your salary per month is $5,000, they shouldn't see any other money other than that exceeds $5,000 a month inputted into that account without justification of where you've gotten it from. And that is know your customer. That's a part of the legislation. Some will say, well, that's my business. I could have been saving it up in my piggy bank at home. I could have been, for every time I do the laundry, I found $5, $10, $25 here, there, everywhere. And I've just added it up over 3 years. And now it's ended up to, let's say, $5,000. So that one particular month, your salary of $5,000 went in, but then you decided because the Christmas is coming up and you've been saving all of the money that you've got in your laundry. And let's say it came up to, let's be real, $1,000, let's say, right? Then they have the right to ask you, where'd you get that $1,000 from? Because in that calendar month, you had already exceeded what deposit you have declared of $5,000, which is derived from your salary. So where did you get this $1,000 from? I'm just using these numbers as example. The banks have the right to ask you for that. So you may say, well, this is what I had at home. Can they reject from taking your money? That is interesting because you went over. Would you have to do a declaration to say that's what you did? It kind of puts saving in a piggy bank to a different level, doesn't it? Because some people collect all sorts of coins into the blue and flowers water bottle, and you empty them out at the end of the year, saving up for a vacation. You want to exchange those coins, which there's a fee for that. So it's interesting. Are you going to declare that? Do you then have to take pictures of these for evidence? Like, where are we going? Yes. OMG. It's amazing. But you can see just based on this conversation, how we're evolving, how life is changing, and it's changing quite quickly around us. And it's going to be very interesting how the conversation goes. Amanda, some people prefer cash to avoid paying bank fees. But what happens to the days when you can't use cash anymore and businesses who take cash then are fined? It's going there. You go to UK now, hardly anywhere takes cash. You go to some of the countries in Europe, hardly anywhere takes cash. It's all this tap, or you use this thing that's on your phone, and there's no exchange in cash as we know it in certain jurisdiction. It's all going digital. As simple as New York. There are some places in New York, downtown, in Manhattan especially, that actually take cryptocurrency. Someone asked that question, or I think it was Denny who asked. But right now in certain states, there are businesses that are transacting transactions based on a crypto wallet. So it is here. It's not in your face, but it's actually making its way. Barbara G., while I do understand that some people should not have business accounts for whatever reason, what I cannot understand is why someone cannot have a savings account. Why everyone cannot have a savings account. Sorry. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Some people just don't like the bank system, though, Miss Barbara G. Some people still believes in the olden days, once their salary goes into their account and they pay their utilities. I have a lot of friends right now that still prefers to withdraw their cash from the ATM and go and pay their utility bills directly so that they can get a physical receipt. They refuse to actually do online payments because they want to actually go to the water authority and they want that receipt. They want to go to the gas station and they want that receipt because maybe they have had a bad experience. Will that be like what's happening in the EU jurisdiction where come April 2026, you won't need any passports anymore? Really? Your biometrics will be collected. There will be no stamps, your facial imagery, your fingerprinting. Is that where we're headed? So, Miss Barbara, I agree with you that everyone should have a savings account. But what happens to those who are just late bloomers, late comers to the game, if that's where we're going to go? And if we're going to get to the point where it's almost like the systems are set up where you can't use cash, then what happens then? It's almost like, even though it's an opt-in, it's almost forcing you to in order to make yeah. See, I got a commenter saying, me too. They like their receipt. I don't have anything around it. It's just convenient for me to just sit down anywhere and do it from my phone. I just go straight on to CUC. I go straight on to Water Authority and I pay my bills there. I don't leave from home. And what you do for the receipt, once you attach your email to it, once it's paid, you get that confirmation email and you get your transaction ID and it's paid. And then within 2 or 3 days, you will see the deduction come from your bank. So it works for me, but it works for me. It just made life easier. I could remember days when I was in Parliament that I was literally, holy crap, water bill. And, after the 21st, they start charging you interest. And I'm there, boy, and I'm paying it online. And I didn't have to leave Parliament. I didn't have to run down to Water Authority. I did it online. So, yeah, for me, it was more convenience, to be honest. But I respect anyone who is a little late to the game. Amanda, persons now in days prefer to keep their money home due to the fees that waiting period it takes to clear your paycheck or not being able to deposit and clear same day. But again, these are all conversations that we need to have. Our government, who are your voices, needs to have with the financial institution, but again, with dignity and balance as we see this evolution of with digital footprint. Connie, well, I sold my car and I had to take the sales receipt to them. Yeah, because it was over the same amount. So you had to show a bill of sale. You had to show a bill of sale to justify where the money was coming from. Obviously, that wasn't online. That was by way of a cash transaction or maybe a bank draft. And you had to declare it. Yeah, because your parameters, Connie, in the bank was a certain amount. And once you went over that in that month, then you have to justify where the source of funds is coming from. So they are in your business. Yeah. So yeah, what if I exchange 100,000 in crypto dollars? What if would that be cash? What if I exchange $100,000 in crypto dollars? I don't even know how to answer that. So yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't have a clue. Connie, true. Most European countries do not use cash, Apple Pay or a card. Yep, it's real over there. Cash is, you just don't use it. And they will tell you they won't accept that money. Sia also says, well, if it's changing so quick, then our banks and government is not keeping up. Sia, that was one of the questions that was posed to the Honorable Premier yesterday when they were saying that we're in the discussion phases with this task force, are going now to get public feedback, to do their research and make recommendations for this task force, not to mix up the two, to be honest. But he's saying it's a step in the right direction. And one person says, how can we actually guarantee that we are moving legislation fast enough as the world is actually changing? So you're onto something, to be honest. And that is, well, if it's changing so quick, then our banks and government is not keeping up. That it's going to take everyone, to be honest, because they're not allowing our people to invest further. And the only people that are winning and able to invest in digital currency. Denny further says, to my knowledge, the only businesses accepting Bitcoin payments is Cask, 18 Forum Lane. Interesting. I'm not saying it. Yeah, this is why I said I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't happening, because the mere fact it is regulated, they would have legal rights in order to do it. It's just not in your face because we're now just getting into the conversations. People is just now hearing more about it. Sia, are the expats with foreign bank accounts that allow cryptocurrency? Are the expats with foreign bank accounts that allow cryptocurrency? I don't know. I pay all my bills online. So do I. Damian Charles. then they can control you and shut you off financially. Control what and how much food you can eat a month. Sounds similar to communism with rations. Certain extremely wealthy people wanting to be the kings. Barbara G says, I was referring to a person who was turned down by 6 banks. The problem is that it's next to impossible for a person to apply for a job, as most businesses do their salaries via bank accounts. Oh, okay. With context, yeah, context does matter. Thank you for explaining that, my love. Miss Rose, scamming for online payments is happening now as well. That is not safe to do your transaction online either. It's not that safe. Yeah, nothing is bulletproof. As Danny actually alluded to earlier on, there is risks in everything that we do. Forum Lean, mighty God, no wonder they be antagonizing me. So, well, there you go. There you go. So it is interesting. And when you look then at why legislation matters here, whether or not some of us are actually prepared for it, it really does. Because as a small island development jurisdiction that we are small in size, but we are still very much globally connected. You cannot deny that. And even though we're a small developing state, we're also vulnerable, very vulnerable to external shocks. That isn't just financial markets. We got a tropical storm right now that's brewing in the Caribbean. Whether it's a hurricane or a global recession, or simply because of where our currency is pegged, the US interest rates. Yeah. And like I said, our CI dollar is pegged to the US dollar, which gives us stability, yes, but it also means that we're tied to their US economy decisions. So where we get our income from is heavily relying on financial service. It is our biggest earner, and we must stay compliant with the global standards. You would have heard me and Danny talked about the OECD and the FATF, making sure that we don't fall afoul of that when we do all of this budgeting and all that sort of stuff. But our national income sources is from financial services. It's also from tourism. It's from lands and duty. Work permit fees as well does play a role in there. And when it comes to our income that's derived from tourism, we know that that's vulnerable because we saw what happened in the pandemics. We saw what happened when we lack infrastructure, that people are saying, oh, we don't need a port. Yes, we need a port. No, we don't need a port. Yeah, like really? But besides that, infrastructure does play a role. The vulnerability, as I said, from pandemics, climate change is also, I mean, if they don't have any beaches to go to because it's being eroded, because we may have failed earlier on, what's going to make us more attractive? If we don't look at other diversification in our stay over tourism products or tourism products, period, that could impact our tourism and also global travel trends. If you think we're not affected by that, you're mistaken. And then you look then at the revenues that government makes from lands and duty. So real estate is booming here, despite people are saying there are too much concessions that we're given. We need to stop with all the concessions and maybe inject that money into our markets. And then there was a delicate balance and how much Caymanian companies that are actually subcontracted to do some of these buildings and stuff like that, which is where the word sustainability comes in, that in order, because it is a revenue driver, but sustainable development. And I know we can probably have 2 or 3 more shows about that, so that putting it all into context, but it is what it is. Nationally, our income source is from lands and duty. And even though we're seeing real estate, it is booming, we need fair policies to avoid pricing out our locals, and people are screaming that we need more houses. I've seen a headline, I think, caught at the corner of my eyes, why people are not getting access to these affordable homes as yet. Why is it taking so long, and so forth? Again, another subject, another day. And then we look at the revenue income streams that we have now from work permit fees. We can't deny that that also plays a major revenue stream as well, but also balancing the act between opportunity and sustainability. We are looking at the immigration reform. What does that mean? I see where there's hint this much in regards to another type of work permit facility for farmers. So again, I'm excited to bring that to you from my take in the coming days, but I want to make sure I get it right. But it's almost feeling like I'm racing because the 5th of November isn't that far. Next week, Friday, is the 31st. Next week, Friday, is the 31st. So whatever it is, the 20-day consultation, yeah, it seems far, but it's really not that far away. Anyhow, I stand to be corrected. Please. I stand to be corrected. So then you'll ask, then why does legislation really matters? Legislation, robust task force like this, just as an example of what was shared here yesterday, to regulate digital assets is the reason why legislation matters. And it also is there to protect investors. And you may not be a millionaire, a billionaire, whatever, but when we say about protecting our investors, whether it's a student saver or you have a share account at credit union, you're all an investor. Okay, just as some just has a little bit more, some have diversified their what they have as assets, and I'm hoping you're understanding and you following the terms. We're all investors, and that's why legislation does not only protect a certain sector of people nationally, the legislation protects everyone. Okay. Also, why legislation matters is because it ensures for fair access. Yeah, the Constitution ties into this as well, fair access to land and housing. And why legislation matters is because to future-proof tourism with climate resilience, and this is where the word sustainability comes in, all of that sort of stuff. And then why legislation matters is because it also balances immigration and labor needs with local development. So this is why that white paper needs to be slowed down just so that everyone can understand exactly what's out there. Okay. I know a lot of you are hungry. We were wanting it, but it's a lot. It's a lot of amendments that are being made. And I agree. It's a lot. Going back to the October 6th launch of the National Digital Transformation Strategy Task Force, pretty much what that is signaling in layman's terms, that Cayman Islands is paving the groundwork for digital currency. Yeah, I said it. But it's still in the very early stages. We're seeing where SEMA has legislative framework around it that actually supports the platforms. It's happening already. And the task force now is focused on creating this framework, not yet launching a currency. They're not launching a currency. And for everyday Caymanians, this means that change is actually coming and preparation is key. And for the sake of those who may have missed it yesterday or just now able to digest with everything that was shared here this evening, the government now with this task force, they are challenged now to explore how Cayman can adapt with global technology shifts, including digital assets and artificial intelligence. And the task force, as you heard right here, is made up of our very own government leaders and private sector experts and is focused, as explained here. And for the sake of context, I thought it was necessary for me to bring it back up here again today. Digital trust, which means that's ensuring the cybersecurity and data protection, information protection, intelligence and transformation. That means using artificial intelligence and tech to improve services, how you engage, how you transact business, accessibility. Some of you switching it to the other part now, saying more control and all that sort of stuff. And then the third pillar is digital assets and economic growth. That's pretty much exploring, term comes up again, tokenized investments in digital currency, which our very own Danny explained. So even though we're hearing it, this is not yet a rollout for Cayman's digital currency. This is just compiling the information in order for this task force to use their blueprint and make the recommendations for the government. So It's really a strategic move to study recommended and prepare for one. That's exactly what it is. And the task force then will advise the elected government on how to proceed responsibly. And I know Denny says the importance of people's rights, right to privacy, the Constitution, and all of that sort of stuff will be taken, human rights element of it. That was highlighted, and the premier did not disagree. He agrees that all of those elements, but you got to start from somewhere, right? So pretty much for everyday people, especially those who are struggling, this shift, and even with this very conversation, could feel distant or outright confusing. I see where Miss Rose was asking, so if I'm renting, how am I going to pay my landlord? Don't worry, don't get ahead of yourself, Miss Rose. Don't, just exhale. We are going to take our time and we're going to ease into this, because I'm quite sure you, Miss Rose, have a debit card. And even though you may not be savvy enough on online banking and all that sort of stuff, there will be ways around it. We're just going to take it in small steps and small strides right now. But what is important is to understand is how it will and could affect your daily life, as Miss Rose alluded to, because we will see where digital payments will become more common. We can expect more digital wallets, QR codes that we're seeing all the time now for polls and all that sort of stuff. And we will see cashless options. It's already here. Businesses may start accepting stable coins eventually, even though, as I said, this is not a rollout of our currency. We're realizing that some of it is actually already happening in our space, or tokenized payments. It's just not rolled out for the everyday man yet. So education is key. And without proper education, many of us Caymanians risk being left behind or feeling as though their voice doesn't matter. And if the government has a duty to actually keep the lines of communication open, they must ensure that digital literacy programs reach all communities. And that is really, really what they're tasked with doing. So you may ask yourself, are we building Cayman for the next 5 years or for the next 50 years because of what's happening around us? And you may say, well, I'm just an average Joe. I barely can make my salary from one day to the next. What do I do? There's so much questions. And I didn't expect you to be able to digest all of this. But even from in one sitting, because we're going to have to visit this back again. Yeah. So don't feel overwhelmed. Don't feel stressed. Not all is lost. Not all is lost. We will be back here and definitely go through this. And we will be repeating a lot. We will be repeating a lot. And it's for the sake of educating. And I'm so happy that we can have a forum like this where it's open and you can share your concerns and you can ask your questions. Damien, what do you say? Even something like Vimo. We have almost 20 years behind. We are almost 20 years behind. In many cases, legislation, Damien, for true, we are a bit behind. And that is what the Premier was alluding to. But it's all coming in so fast. And I think the power of AI, the power of Google searches and all that sort of stuff is actually helping all of us to be more informed. But it's when we can break it down together like this, it puts everything into perspective. Some may be a little nervous, some may be a bit scared, but you just embrace it. I'm still petrified at certain AI stuff, but more and more as I'm getting comfortable just setting up for this show, there's a lot of AI that's being used, from the very own camera to how I engage with you guys. There's a lot of AI. There's a lot of AI that's being used in order for me to deliver. How Sandra comes in the background, how we even communicate. There's a lot of AI that's going on. And even for businesses and how they prepare, what preparations look like. You hearing POS systems, that debit card machine, that one now. I see even in churches, when you go to certain church, they got their bank account up on the screen, tells you for your offerings and paying your tithes. If you don't have it in there, you can go online and you can do it. Yeah, it's real. It's happening. I remember when you go down In some countries now, you see even people on the road now, and you say, I don't have no cash, I don't have no change. My man pulled out something on a phone, you swipe your card. So you can't deny it. It's where we're going. That's funny as heck, though. Because if you're saying you're homeless and you have a smartphone with a card reader, it could be more than a card reader, though. That can actually be skimming your card. But what I'm saying is even those panhandlers are actually in touch with the digital world. So even small businesses, they're going to be challenged and tasked as we continue to evolve in this space to train staff. And employees should understand how digital payments work, how to troubleshoot them, and how to explain them to even our customers, should it, because this tap thing or scan or wand over. I saw, was it something I saw the other day where somebody just used their wrist? It wasn't their watch. It was whatever they had implanted in them. They did it, or they did their hand. I gonna try to find that. Then. Yeah, I'm really writing up, but go ahead. I know I want to catch you. What I said that triggered you now. What did I say that triggered you?
Well, the problem with everything being online in that way is that it has a higher cost.
Because there are going to be fees associated with all of that, right?
That's right.
Correct.
So let's say you take $100 bill, right? And I pay it to you. The bank doesn't get a fee from that. You pay it to someone else in cash, bank doesn't get a fee from that. But if all of the transactions have to go through the bank, every time the money is spent, the value of that $100 bill is decreasing, because what you have to pay, what I would have to pay to pass it on to you is now higher. It's more than $100. And then what you have to pay is more than $100.
Right.
And so how many transactions will it take before that $100 is transferred to the bank and not in our hands?
Right.
That the loss of such a freedom of being able to spend cash without being required to go through the bank in that way, that would be a tragedy.
Right.
And you have to understand that when you lock yourself into a system like that, there's someone sent me something, I'll send it to you, and it's basically someone went into a business and they were trying to pay for something, and the person said, well, the representative for the company said, how would you like to pay? And then but the only option they had was a card. And then there was this convenience fee. And then the customer rebutted by saying, well, can I pay cash? No. Well, can I pay in traveler's checks or something? And the person said, what's traveler's checks? And then it got to the point where the customer said, well, if I'm paying a convenience fee, there's no convenience.
You're correct.
I only have one option.
Right.
And what you have to realize is once they get you locked into the system, they can do with you as you feel. And if you think it'll be easy to back out of that, you better stop smoking whatever it is you're smoking, because it can't be legal. All right? It's not going to be easy. We should have freedom of how we want to do things. This idea that it could only be done one way, that's a communist, fascist idea. And it's about control. And our society should not be about controlling people in that way. The British common law freedoms that we enjoy are being eroded. And effectively, we're signing a contract with the government to say, oh yeah, we want less freedoms and you can control us. That's effectively what you're doing. I think that's unwise. Anyhow, leave it to another.
There we go. Thank you so much. Sia, I will take up, this space is open for anyone. The mere fact that I'm scratching the surface and bringing this, I see your comment. I think you need financial minister with you to explain things better. It does help when I get a person's on here, but many of these shows will have to be solo because for the very same reason, Sia, they're not speaking about these type of things in layman's terms. So me being able to come here in a very candid manner, in a layman's term, it is impossible for me to answer everything from an expert, hence the disclaimer at the beginning. But based on a lot of things that are said, many of times I clarify them. When they do come back on this space, the questions will be asked. But the mere fact that it's out in the open and you are more, I'm so happy for your participation. I'm so happy for your opinions. I don't profess to know everything. And my ability in bringing it across in layman's terms has opened the eyes of many. And that is a huge takeaway from here this evening. But I would love for anyone with the expertise who would be willing enough that you can trust that what they will tell you to come on here and explaining a little bit better. And that is why it's imperative that the recommendation that comes back from this task force is vital. But we will keep the conversations going here once I see the demand. Cayman Brack, the best island. Cayman Airways can only take cards at the check-in counter for excess baggage, upgrade, etc. We cannot pay cash. That's crazy. Many don't have a card. Sia, I don't know why you're trying to make it sound cool, but it's the mark of the Bruce Beast. And right here, it's not my opinion, Sia. You're entitled to yours, and I'm just delivering the facts. And like I said earlier on, I don't know if you missed a comment. I would be more than happy to talk about the mark of the beast, but I would not. And I said that earlier on. I would not be bringing that title as a solo person because I would love to have the Christians on one side and those who are not, who just bring a neutral contribution to the space. So I'm not saying I never ever said that it was cool. I'm just delivering the facts. And this is why I'm totally respectful for everyone and their opinions. Ask Seema to come on and explain. I will definitely make it come out there for sure. But I'm happy that it has caught so much people's interest. If they're willing to come on here to break it down, that I've scratched the surface, we can definitely I'll ask and invite to see how much they're willing to come out here, break it down and explain to us. Definitely. Yep. No confusion. All can understand. Thanks, Sabrina. Yes, well, that brings me to the end of today's episode, but there's still a lot more information that I can share with you. But I really honestly want to thank all of you for your participation, all of those who called in, all of those who are messaging here, and even WhatsApp. Your contribution is greatly appreciated and always welcome. Until tomorrow, please do enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening. Please keep it locked to your local media stations for the latest update on Tropical Storm Melissa so that we can continue to watch its track. And the key is to always, always, always be prepared. Until tomorrow, have a safe and fabulous Tuesday evening. God bless.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.